Of course, I started working before I remembered to record anything. So we're going to pick up. I just pulled the exhaust out. This is the rear section behind the X-pipe. You can see it's got slip clamps, sleeve clamps that connect this to the X-pipe, which makes it a lot easier to pull these tailpipes on and off as I need to for access to the rear diff and all that stuff. So I have them off, laid them down. They're usually a little closer together than this in the car, but not much. And then I'm mocking up my resonators. It's about where I want them, but I want to make sure there's clearance to still slip this into the Y pipe, or X pipe rather, and then have room for the clamp. So that's about where the clamp was riding. You can see the clean mark on both pipes, where the clamp was roughing up on it. Now, the resonators are the same diameter as the X pipe that's in the car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off a stub off the end and use that as an extension, and I can still slip clamp this in because the resonators are just long enough. So I'm going to mount these up here. These will slip over the tailpipe, and I'll weld those up, and this gives me a chance to clean up all these welds and wrap the tailpipes when I'm all done. And so that gives me enough room to slip the resonator over the pipe. I had to clean the burrs off, but there you go. So that'll slip up here and get welded. And that gives me enough room in the bottom to weld in the back section here. So I'll cut this off about here, and I'll weld in a section back here. So essentially the resonator will replace the straight piece of pipe that was welded on behind that last 45-degree elbow. And do all the welding outside the car, because I hate welding on my back upside down. And I'm going to cut this, and I'll touch back in a few minutes when I make some progress here. Alright, so here's the resonators mocked up on it. They're slipped right down nice. What I did was, you'll notice I shimmed that up with a piece of cardboard to keep it level. This, the nearest one to me, the driver's side pipe, was dead level. Once I supported the mufflers with blocks to get those off the ground so the weight wasn't tipping, wasn't using the centerpiece but as a fulcrum and lifting these off the ground. Once I propped those up, this side, the driver's side section was dead level. So basically I shimmed it up with cardboard until the resonator is dead level, and then I set it up in line with where the tailpipe came out. So I know the resonator's directly replacing the pipe I cut off. It's not going to change the angle and get cocked one way or the other. Let me get my finger out of the way. This side was actually tipped down a little bit, but just oddly enough, when I slip the resonator onto this pipe, it's a real snug fit, so there isn't a whole lot of wiggle room. So that resonator just wants to be in the same position as the pipe I cut off at the outlet end. So we're in good shape there. So now I'm just going to tack these. I'll tack them with my MIG. Let me get set up, get the MIG wired up and ready to go. And I might shoot some video while I'm MIGing too. Oh yeah, one other thing real quick is these tips always seem to stick out a little too far for my taste, like 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So what I'm going to do is knock these tips off right where it goes to straight pipe here, so I'll preserve just a little bit of that diameter. Cut this off here, cut this off here. I'm essentially to cut this pipe out. And then what I'll do is, once I get the rest of the exhaust hung and the muffler outlets look about equal distance from the bottom of the bumper, and the exhaust is all hung, then I'll rehang the tips and weld those in place, and that'll give me the ability to adjust the tips so that it'll look even if the muffler angles are a touch different from side to side. I'll be able to line the tips up. So I'm going to cut those off as well. And I think what I'm going to do is mark everything. I already marked a line on those to weld those so I can slip the resonators off, and I'm going to put everything up on my bike lift table here / workbench, because the sun is just killing me working here this early in the morning in Florida, and I hate working on the ground. So I'm going to weld them up here, I think, for wheel sheet, unless I fab up some sort of little... Ooh, I actually do have a little fold-up table. That's going to leave me in the sun. I'll figure it out. Bam! Alright, so we're all set up here on the bench. You'll see I've got it propped up again with some cardboard to get the angle just right. What I want is that line to have a consistent gap the whole way around. So I know it's back on the pipe in the same orientation it was when I scribed it. So we're good to go. And I'm going to set the camera up on a tripod, and I'll probably run it at double times and waste all your time sitting here watching me doing it. But one thing I'm going to do at first, and what you have to realize is, you know, I can't just start a bead here and run around the pipe, because what's going to happen is as that bead cools, it's going to pull the pipes together, so it'll actually change the angle on the pipe. So what I'll do is I'll put a tack here, and it won't pull it much because it's just a little tack, but it's enough to hold it in place. And then I can tack over here, and then I'll probably tack up on top just to keep it keep the pipe oriented so it doesn't want to turn one way or the other as the welds cool. Once I get it tacked 3 or 4 times around the outside, then I can just run a straight bead and start connecting the tacks together, and that'll be fine. It's still a good idea to work opposites, just in case you have a tack that didn't hold really well, and keep double checking the angle and make sure it hasn't shifted, but that's what you'll see. So let me grab my helmet, and I'm going to put the camera up on a tripod, and I think we're all set to go here. Alright, so I did clean this, but it's still a little bit of spatter going. I gotta wait till the shielding gasket's full. It also doesn't look like I have enough heat because it's starting to really push off of it, so I'm gonna crank the heat up a little bit. That's better. You hear that fried egg sound? That's what it should sound like somebody frying eggs up. A nice steady buzz. I'm also getting a decent puddle now, so it's just needing a little more heat, that's all. You know, this is only a 110 MIG. It's not, doesn't have a lot of current, so this is pretty much on the max setting. If I start to blow through, because the stainless resonator isn't terribly thin, it's actually good quality. It's pretty thick, but I've seen them. It's not as thick as the steel is. So a lot of times, what happens when you're trying to weld thin metals, it'll start blowing through. But if I'm not blowing through, I'm going to keep it up on high. I think the wire speed's pretty good. We'll get another tack in there, and we'll keep going. Yeah, see, that's nice. I might actually lower the wire speed a little bit so I get a little bit of a lower weld. It's pretty fat right now, but it's not bad. See what happens when I start moving. All right, that's pretty good. I'm going to get to it. I'll probably fast forward this section. Alright, so that's one side. It's pretty good. I'll leak check it before I wrap it, but that came out pretty good. Did have a couple little blowouts or blow-throughs you might have seen. Basically, you just gotta let it cool off a little bit, and then you can dab back in. The problem with a blowout is it overheats the metal, so it runs away from the weld, and if you just keep cranking weld into it, you'll just keep chasing that edge back. So you got to give it a second to cool down, and then you can blast it. But as a whole, that's pretty good. Nice little figure eights or E's. You're basically going back loops as you're going. Of course, if this was a nice flat angle or something, I could have done a prettier weld, and that's certainly prettier than this junk where I threw this together a couple of weeks ago. But again, I wasn't worried about, you know, it looking pretty as long as it was tight, because I know I was going to wrap it anyway. So let me leak check this Once it cools down a little bit. And if it doesn't blow any bubbles, and I don't have to touch anything up on that side's good. Then it's got to cut the ends, the extensions to make on that side, and tack those in. All right, so what we're going to do here is I've packed the tailpipe end with a rag to make it relatively airtight. I don't know if you can see that on camera. And I'm going to spray some soapy water solution on the weld to blow some compressed air in the other end with that relatively sealed. And if we blow any bubbles, then we know we've got a leak. Alright, so that's good, nice and tight. Let's get the extension piece mocked up. The length on this isn't critical because there's a slip. It slips into the X pipe. So I'm going to eyeball it up. I did measure it beforehand, and from my scribe line to the tip of the pipe was about 19 inches. Yeah, 19 inches total. We're about lined up. Need a little. That was down. You're going to top. Here. Here's all the pieces. All right, so that's it. I'm going to do the same thing and tack it around the corners to keep it from cocking it. There isn't much swing in the end of this. I'll try and keep it centered and straight to the stub coming out of the resonators I can, but honestly, even if it's off by a couple of degrees, you're only looking at like a 1/16 of an inch difference in height. Maybe an eighth, so. And again, that resonator is nice and level the way it should have been, so I should be able to go back in the exact same position it came out. And I'm not seeing anything moving. I'm going to call that good. I'm going to go hang this in the car and see if it hangs where I need it to, where it should be. And then we'll be ready to reinstall this side. And I just got to, I'll weld the tip back on once I get it in the car, and I can set the orientation up. No, I forgot. I got to wrap it first. I'm going to wrap it with the heat wrap, and then I'll hang it. Tell you what, these stainless ties are a bear to cut. I mean, I guess I could get a whizzer, but they're a pain in the ass. Man, the other one cooperated so much. Or so well. There we go. Just couldn't get any leverage from the other side. I'll tell you, I really like this titanium wrap. It's cheap too. It's not expensive. This is 2-inch ride off Amazon. I think this 50-foot roll was like $17 with the stainless zip ties. And it's hard to beat. I mean, it'll cut the radiant heat coming off that pipe way down. It'll actually numb some of the sound down, or it tones some of the sound down. And it looks pretty cool too. That's it. Let's get this sucker back in the car. Make sure I don't have to make any changes on that tailpipe end. And we're ready to go on the passenger side pipe. All right, part 2. This is all mocked up, ready to go. All measured out. I'm just going to start welding up. I always forget my damn gloves until I start getting sunburned. There's a good shot of a blowout. You're going to watch the angle too. If you're pointed straight down against the weld, it'll tend to want to push through it and blow it. And I'm trying to run at more of an angle like this to draw it across. And you want to stay away from the thinner stainless, because that will tend to blow and crawl back, which is happening a bunch, but I can catch that on the loop. As I loop around, I'm picking up that edge, and that's fine once I get a puddle going. The problem with round pipe like this is it's hard to get a puddle running. Well, it is for me. Probably a million welders going to comment and tell me how easy it is and how bad I am. Well, what are you going to do? But you got to keep changing angles. You know, if there was a nice flat plate and I was just going across a bead, then I can get some consistency, but it's difficult when you're welding around an edge like this and you're constantly shifting your angle. Here's what I can. Man, this side wants to blow out like crazy. All right, so as you can see, it was blowing out really bad on the tailpipe end, probably because there's less mass down there, so it was getting a little hotter than this end. And ultimately, I just turned the heat down a click. Because I think it was putting too much heat into it, it just couldn't hold it, so it would just melt too far back and I'd puddle out. I'm going to pressure test this, see if it's got any leaks. I'll give it a minute to cool down first. But. Now the compressor turned off. So I made a boo-boo. While it was cooling down, I test fitted up the driver's side pipe, and I cut it too short. So when I measured the 19 inches from the cut line to the tip, what I didn't realize was that the cut line for this pipe was actually up here, sleeved in. So I cut them about a. So this is the input between the resonator and the X pipe. And you can see I cut it off the end of the resonator with the weld on it and slid the rest of the piece out. I cut a new piece about 1.5 inches longer. And that's what I need to get it lined up. Which is roughly the same size as the one that's in this one. So, oh, wait a second, I grabbed the wrong one. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? almost the exact same size as the one that's in the other resonator, because there should be in about the same place under the car anyway, and about 1.75 inches, 2 inches longer than the one I had in there. So that should give me the right exposed length. That'll slip into the X pipe, and then the band clamp will grab it from there. As it is right now, when I fit it up, it wouldn't even touch the X pipe, or just barely. The band clamp would have been holding it, and that's not going to seal. Just the band clamp by itself. Yeah. So let me get this one wrapped, and then I'll weld this tip into the driver's side pipe that I thought I was done with, and we'll be good to go. All right, we're back. Notice I put on some rubber gloves. I was starting to get little fiberglass pieces in my skin, because this exhaust wrap is fiberglass, and then I think I don't know what's in it to give it the titanium look or extra heat resistance, but I don't think there's much real titanium in it. But anyway, it's like working with fiberglass. Any other fiberglass, you get the little tiny little bits stuck in your skin, and you'll be itchy and picking them out for days. So I got a couple in between my fingers. I generally don't get them around my fingertips and stuff where the skin is all callous, but in between my fingers I'll get a couple, and I've got a couple right now. One in here is itching. So I'll just have to deal with the sweaty hands for a few minutes. As possible. I'm putting control of the point. I'm going to plant top them around. Or have it up just Sometimes it doesn't hurt to grab it and give it a little twist also. You can help get the tension real good on it. And it's not really going to loosen up much. But better chance you have of it staying put. And if you end up bottoming the car out or dragging it on something, it's a lot less likely to get torn off. So, plus you get a little more out of the roll if you don't waste it being all baggy. Corners are a pain in the butt. You'll find that it wants to bulge, like here. You can use your fingers to kind of smooth that out and tuck it under. That way you don't end up chasing. Right now, it wants to chase a big bulge around the outside, but I can tuck that down here with my thumb and run right over it. Now it wants to chase a bulge on the inside one when you're turning corners. If you get on a straight piece of pipe, you can get the angle right and it'll lay nice and flat the whole way. But anytime you're making bends, it's gonna wanna bulge up. I got a bulge back here I'm tucking under right now. This will be the top side of the pipe in the car, so nobody will see it anyway. Cut that guy down there. Ah. We'll keep the open end tucked up and out of sight, out of the wind. Or roll it out of there. It's going to be a lot harder to do down inside the joint here, but up on top, you got a lot more access to clamp it, to crank it down. Something else I noticed was that the resonator was real close to hitting the frame, or it comes across the top like there's like a quarter of an inch or 3/8 of an inch of clearance, and I'd like it to be a little more than that. So I'm actually going to try and build a little bit of an angle into this. This is laying the way it's going to be in the car. I'm going to try and tip this pipe up. It's got a little bit of play. Any little bit of play is going to help. So I'm going to tip this pipe up a little bit. See if we can't keep that resonator off the frame a little bit better. Now there's that 19 inches we should have had to start with. I actually had to go turn the heat back up because it was just spattering like crazy. And yeah, I still had a couple of little punch throughs, burn throughs, but nothing too bad. But I just couldn't get it to flow. You can see the difference. I mean, you saw the top half of the pipe when I started doing it. They're big, chunky bird shit welds, and as I came around the bottom, it got a lot smoother. All right, let's hang these suckers underneath and see what it fits like. It's back hung up and in. It's connected up to the white pipe. Everything's good. I got clearance. I can wiggle the exhaust. I have no contact. Now we've just got to hang the tips. Hangers are hung. You just get the tips on. We'll get them kind of eyeballed, and I'll put a single tack on them, and a single tack will let you kind of wiggle it around a little bit, so then I can line them up with a measuring tape and get them totally level to the bumper, and then we're good to go. We can see what it sounds like. Much better. Helps if the wheels turn out.
see, how level do they look? Not too level. Wait.
That's it. Looking good. All right, so you're ready for the moment of truth, the cold start? Sounds pretty good, much less obnoxious. One surprise is this pipe's rotating down because a pipe comes back out of the muffler and hooks in and goes under the diff and then comes back out. So there's weight on that side of the pipe. So what's happening is I think the band clamp is worn out that grabs around the outside of the clamp, outside of the pipe. So it's letting the weight, when under vibration, it's letting it rotate this way because this tip's way lower. And if you look underneath, you can see the this pipe has dropped about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch compared to the left side pipe. So I got to straighten that out. But other than that, it sounds good.